Hello guys, my name is Will Carmack. I'm wearing my fun shirt. And as you probably guessed, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. So today in this After Effects tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to do a flawless superhero landing. I recently did some Wonder Woman visual effects for my friend Lexi, and look how flawless this superhero landing is. Oh man, nailed it! I'm just gonna break that scene down for you here. I think it's gonna be super helpful. First of all, when you're directing a scene like this, you just wanna tell your actor to jump up in the air and land as cool as they can. And obviously, shooting this on a tripod is best practice. If you're crazy and you wanna film it and then 3D track in a clean slate, more power to you. But we're doing this with a tripod shot. And before we bring this into After Effects, you can see right here, I got my clean slate. So whenever you do a superhero landing, you also want a frame of the exact same shot with nothing in it, the clean slate. Let's right click this clip if you're in Premiere, and then come to replace with After Effects composition. Boop. Oh, you see this head right here? This is what I use to focus on myself. That's funny. All right, now it's up here in After Effects. We got her jumping up and gravity bringing her down. So this is super easy. I'll start with grabbing the clean slate. So if you click on this, I'll rename this Lexi Original, like the original clip. I'm gonna duplicate this because at the end, there's this clean slate here. If I right click, go to time and freeze frame, now this whole top clip is the clean slate. And I will rename this clean slate. So if I get rid of it, you can see Lexi there. So right now I'm gonna leave it invisible and I'm gonna go to the moment where gravity starts to bring her down right here. And I will duplicate this layer. So now we're duplicating it. So this is going to be the masked out clip of her coming down. So to begin, I'll rename this mask. I'm going to drag it to the point where gravity brings her down. Bam. And I think right here is when I want the superhero effect to stop, because you can see she actually lands pretty hard, which is a convincing sell for the superhero landing. All you really need for this effect is for the actor to look like they landed hard. So we want our mask from her to fly in, maybe bam, right when her knees start to take that impact. So I will Control-Shift-D to delete this little half. And so if I solo this tiny layer that we just cut out, this is all we're working with. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So if we click on it, come up to our Roto Brush tool and double click, let's mask these few frames of Lexi out. And by the way, this can be a super rough mask because this scene, this clip of her, will be coming down through the air really quickly. Like I said, rough mask is totally fine. Look at this. This is the roughest mask I've ever seen, but it's good enough. All right, perfect. You can see here we have all of these frames masked out. So now let's come to the bottom right and hit freeze. This is basically just your pro tip for using the Roto Brush. If you don't freeze it, it's gonna constantly trying to be update and propagating every frame. Freezing it locks it into a permanent PNG layer. And so now look. Now we have these like 4 frames of her cut out. And so I'll bring that on top of the clean slate. And so now you can see it's just the clean slate and this shot of her. But if you remember, at the end of this clip is when she just lands naturally. So I can end my clean slate at the end of this mask. So if you played it back, it would look like this. Since the clean slate happened at the same moment we filmed the scene, you can see the transition from the clean slate to the original is actually pretty seamless. So what we'll do is we're gonna grab our mask, hit P, and right before it cuts, create a keyframe. So this is the original position that it should always remain at if it were a normal clip. And so at the beginning of this, we can drag the position up past the screen. And since we cut out the background and it's on top of the clean slate, we can get away with this. And so now with these 2 position keyframes, you see right there, boom. It's almost good right there. Now once we've created these keyframe positions, all we have to do is check this little box in the layers panel, which adds like automated motion blur. And you can see as it's loading how that's working. Bam. And that looks pretty good. I mean, I could almost argue flawless. And so with those position keyframes and the automated motion blur, you basically have your effect. And now for the extra little details that really sell it. In my example, I actually added a little smoke asset. So when she lands on the ground, some like dust lifts into the air. This is my favorite website for extra assets. I have paid for a subscription. They're not paying me to say this, but it's called Footage Crate. And they actually have tons of free assets as well. So I was using this for years before I even paid for it. If you go into their motion elements and whatnot, you'll see dust and smoke. And if you browse the dust and smoke visual effects, you can see that there's like shock waves. And if you scroll down, you can find some great dust elements, like right here. So when I'm looking at these dust elements for superhero landing, I'm looking for one that kind of goes out, not up. But up can help, but out is more satisfying. God, they have literally so many. Oh, this one is perfect. So I'll download this dusty shockwave back, and I'll import that into my little sequence here. I'll rename this Dust. So you can see as she lands, maybe right here. I will even speed this up 60% just because she lands really fast. You can just put it by her feet, maybe switch the blending mode to screen. Actually, maybe soft light. Yeah, we just want it to be kind of subtle. I'll add a camera lens blur to the effect too, just so we get some nice, healthy blur in there to make it help blend in, and let's see what that looks like. Oh, I think it's a little too big. Because remember, we want this to be subtle. Because if you want a realistic superhero landing, like in reality, you don't want to go too crazy with the extra assets. Like I like this. Actually, I could bring it in a little sooner. I like that. And now for a little bit of movement impact, like this is cool, but it still doesn't have enough oomph, or at least micro oomph. And so let's add the micro oomph, shall we? For me, what that looks like is I'll come up to Layer, New, and Null Object. If I hit Control All to select every layer, I will hit Control and deselect the null object. And I will parent over here on the right and whatnot. You can choose a layer for all of the other layers to link to, and I will choose the null object. And so if I hit S and I zoom in 107, it's gonna zoom every layer in by 7 pixels. Bam. And let's see, I'll give her more leg room, so down here. And so the moment she hits, let's change the position each frame until she slows down. You're basically creating this subtle movement with the keyframes. Let's watch that back. This one's a simple workshop, like right here. Maybe I want it to, instead of go side to side, up and down. So I will just play with these keyframes until like a natural looking impact. Almost like when I hit this table and if a camera was on it, the camera would shake a little. That's kind of the vibe I'm trying to recreate here. Like that's pretty nice. Bam. And then, so that looks pretty flawless, right? And then the last detail I'll add is some like turbulence in the air. There's an effect in After Effects called turbulent displacement that would work the same, but I have a plugin called Heat Distortion from Video Copilot I like to use. It like displaces the air. And so I'll come up to Layer, New, and Adjustment Layer. And as she's coming down, if I type in Heat Distortion, it's subtle, but you can see that it like has distorted and made the screen kind of wavy. I will just, with the pen tool, mask like a little heat distortion line to come down as she's coming down. I'll create a keyframe for the mask path, of course, and then I will animate it to come down with her. It's a subtle detail, but if you look back at the edit, you can see that the little air turbulence kind of helps sell it a little bit. And so before she stands up and like goes and puts her face into the blur, I'll just fade it out. So I'll hit T, create a keyframe at 100% opacity, and then before she gets her face all muffled by the heat distortion, I will bring it down to 0. I love this small detail because you can see like as she comes down, there's like ripples in air, there's air ripples on the mountain. I doubt a lot of people would notice this, but this tiny touch I think adds to the realism of this effect. And bam, that is how you do a superhero landing in After Effects. You know, I think you could learn anywhere that it's just a clean slate and a mask. You change the position, but it's the small things like knowing to cut right as the gravity starts to bring them down. I think it's important to note that adding a null object and those micro position changes, that adds so much to the realistic impact. A tiny subtle dust flare when you hit the ground will add so much. And then like changing air turbulence is such a small detail that I think makes this unique and special and stands out. And so that's Will Carmack's visual effects breakdown of a superhero landing. If you have any questions, comment down below, I'll answer them. You can follow me on Instagram. I like to post my like personal visual effects there, and they're super cool. And yeah, time to thank today's sponsor, which was Squarespace. From online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform. Let's say you're a photographer. That's perfect because Squarespace has you covered. They have professional and amazing portfolios and galleries. You can display your work to the world in a sleek and professional manner. And the best part is, Squarespace works with award-winning designer templates. So the galleries and portfolios you're putting your work into just makes it look extra professional. Now, do you have other social medias along with your website? Great. Put them on there. If you're a SoundCloud rapper, you can just put the links to your SoundCloud embedded into the website. Fashion Instagrammer, put your photos embedded into the website. Basically, Squarespace is great because it lets you stay connected, and all of the traffic that comes to your website can see your other social medias. Sky's the limit. Let people know you have other social medias. And lastly, this is great, they have members-only content now. And within the Squarespace world, we like to call this member areas. So with your personal audience, you can generate revenue through gated members-only content. You can manage your members and even send them personal email communications. So go to squarespace.com/willcarmack for 10% off your first website or domain. Thank you for sponsoring this video, Squarespace. I hope you all learned about superhero landings and how to focus when you're alone, like focus on yourself through a camera. I'm still trying to figure out the focus when you're alone thing, like actual focusing. That's tough. All right, where there's a will, there's a way. My name is Will, and have a nice day. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm too lazy. Fuck, I'll do it, okay.